Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Arnaud Champalbert, directeur affaires publiques au Conseil du Patronat du Québec. Hello everyone, my name is Arnaud Champalbert, Director of Public Affairs at the CPQ. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à ce webinaire dans le cadre de la série des gouverneurs AmCham CPQ. Welcome to this joint webinar as part of the AmCham CPQ Governors Series. Veuillez noter que cet événement se déroulera en anglais et en français. Un service de traduction de l'anglais au français est disponible pour ceux qui le désirent. Please note that this event will be held in English and French. An English to French translation service is available for those who wish. Je vous présente tout de suite Michel Belleval, président de l'AmCham Québec, ainsi que Carl Blackburn, président et chef de la direction du CPQ. I present to you Michel Belleval, President of AmCham Québec, and Carl Blackburn, President and CEO of the Conseil du Patronat du Québec. Monsieur Blackburn, la parole est à vous.
Merci Arnaud. Bonjour à tous.
Bonjour à tous.
Bienvenue à ce webinaire conjoint Conseil du Patronat et la Chambre de commerce américaine du Québec. Il s'agit du deuxième événement que nous organisons ensemble. Je me présente, Carl Blackburn, président et chef de la direction du Conseil du Patronat du Québec. Je suis encore une fois accompagné de Michel Belleval, président de la Chambre de commerce américaine au Québec. Bonjour Michel, c'est toujours un plaisir de lier nos deux organisations et de pouvoir échanger avec des invités de marque.
Bonjour Carl, parallèlement, je crois que les gens d'affaires seront bien heureux des enjeux qui seront abordés aujourd'hui. Bon nombre d'entreprises avec la pandémie se relèvent ou bien cherchent à exporter leur savoir-faire de l'autre côté de la frontière. Autant le CPQ que l'AmCham Québec ont reconnu ce besoin de se réunir et d'initier ces opportunités qui seront plus rares avec le COVID-19. Avec le déconfinement annoncé il y a peu de temps au Québec, raison de plus de préparer le terrain pour une véritable relance économique.
C'est pourquoi nous avons l'honneur de recevoir le gouverneur du Vermont, Phil Scott, dont l'État est l'un des plus importants partenaires commerciaux du Québec. Hi, Governor Scott. I'm very pleased to welcome you here. Heaven is virtually. I would like to inform you that simultaneous translation is available to the participants.
Nous sommes très contents de recevoir le gouverneur du Vermont. Cet État est un partenaire naturel et accessible pour le Québec. Signe de son attachement au Québec dès son élection au poste de gouverneur, le premier voyage du gouverneur Scott à l'extérieur de son État a été le nôtre qu'ici, dans la belle province. D'autres gouverneurs pourraient bientôt, l'espérons, répondre favorablement à notre invitation. Les États les plus proches de la frontière avec le Québec, tels que le Vermont, sont en effet très connectés à l'économie québécoise.
Vous êtes, comme Arnaud l'a mentionné au départ, invité à poser vos questions à notre invité par le clavardage. Nous essaierons de couvrir le plus d'aspects possible dans la limite du temps qui nous est accordé, évidemment.
Finalement, pour clore le webinaire, nous avons le privilège de recevoir la déléguée générale du Québec à Boston pour la Nouvelle-Angleterre, Mme Marie-Claude Franqueur. Elle et son équipe ont gentiment accepté de collaborer à l'organisation de cet événement.
Before letting Governor Scott speak, let me present him in a few words. Phil Scott est gouverneur républicain de l'État du Vermont depuis 2017. Le développement économique a toujours été l'une de ses grandes priorités pour les habitants du Vermont. Outre l'économie, M. Scott s'est assuré que d'importants investissements soient injectés, entre autres, dans le perfectionnement de la main-d'œuvre, la formation technique professionnelle et les études supérieures. La gestion de crise du gouverneur Phil Scott durant la COVID-19 a d'ailleurs été remarquée par les médias alors que son État affiche le plus bas taux de mortalité et de contamination par habitant au pays. Avec une campagne de vaccination bien avancée et un taux de chômage enviable à 2,9 %, M. Scott en a surpris plus d'un. Avant d'occuper ce poste, le gouverneur Scott a représenté le comté de Washington au Sénat du Vermont pendant 5 mandats. Au cours de ses 10 dernières années de service au Sénat, il a été vice-président du comité des transports et président du comité des institutions. Avant sa carrière en politique active, il a été copropriétaire de l'entreprise familiale de construction pendant 30 ans. Il est l'un des seuls de son parti à avoir voté pour Joe Biden à l'élection présidentielle et publiquement appelé à la démission de Donald Trump pour l'assaut du Capitole en janvier dernier. Il est un exemple flagrant qu'en dépit des allégeances politiques, le dialogue et la collaboration sont possibles et encouragés pour une société plus juste.
It's an honor for us to welcome Governor Phil Scott, a friend of Quebec and a friend of Canada. Governor Scott, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks so much for inviting me. It's great to be here, even if it's only by video. I look forward to a time and what I hope is the not too distant future where we can see each other in person again. As I'm sure you'd agree, the relationship between Quebec and Vermont is not just because of the border we share, but because we have a long history of family connections, shared roots, and many common values and interests. This includes really important economic ties. With $5 billion in trade, Quebec is Vermont's largest international trading partner, and we're Quebec's second largest economic partner in New England. It's also important to note we built things together. About half of all trade with Canada takes place between related companies. Businesses, big and small, have built supply chains in areas like aerospace, IT, construction materials, and more. Now, COVID has obviously had an impact on all of us, but movement of parts, raw material, and natural resources like logs and lumber going back and forth across the border multiple times before a final product rolls off the assembly line has been so important for decades. And I hope to only see this improve, especially when we get through the pandemic. The Biden administration has signaled a strengthening diplomatic relationships with America's traditional allies, including Canada and Mexico. And he's telling us this will be a priority. So I'm very glad to see that. When we look at how interconnected our economies really are, and how much we all collectively benefit, it's clear this is an important relationship for all of us. Some of you might remember the 10% aluminum tariff proposed toward the end of the Trump presidency. And when I saw that, I reached out to my counterparts in New Hampshire and Maine right away. I could see that this could have a negative effect on manufacturers and supply chain businesses in our states. So together, we sent a letter to the president to make him aware of just how much this move would hurt U.S. companies and how important it was for us to stick together with our Canadian neighbors and allies. I'm pleased that President Trump reversed course. That was after receiving that letter, and fortunately, that tariff never came to pass. In Vermont, keeping trade routes and supply chains open with our most important trade partner is key to both of our economies. And I hope our actions continue to show our commitment to this relationship, especially with Quebec. I'm happy to say that after Premier Legault was elected, I was the first U.S. governor to come and meet him in Quebec. Now, I want to talk about some specific companies that show the tremendous opportunities we can create when we work together. First, I believe Elliot Nifson of Peerless Company is in the audience today. Peerless is an example of a Quebec company that established a presence in Vermont, where they have recently expanded and have created hundreds of jobs for Vermonters. I want to thank Elliot for being here today and most importantly, for choosing Vermont. The Vermont Chamber of Commerce has led the way to build a Vermont-Quebec aerospace trade corridor. I'm pleased to say through these efforts, this corridor connects down through Connecticut with their powerful aerospace sector. By linking our aerospace manufacturing industry with Quebec and Connecticut, we're truly transforming Vermont into a supply chain hub for cross-border and regional commerce. And a new company, Beta Technologies, is another emerging aerospace company we're really proud of in Vermont. It's building the world's first all-electric airplane, and they already have key contracts with some of the world's biggest shipping companies. Beta will be producing the first aircraft to operate with zero emissions. This Vermont-made aircraft will help companies all over the world reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by providing them with an efficient alternative to their current fleet. So what Beta is building will change the world of aviation, all from right here in our region. This company has the potential to become one of our largest employers, creating literally hundreds of new jobs over the next couple of years, and one of our biggest draws for highly skilled professionals and innovators to locate here with their families, which is a significant opportunity for us. You know, I talk a lot about the demographic challenge we face in Vermont. We have an aging workforce, which for years was shrinking, and our school population has also declined. I know you have some of the same issues and concerns.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that this may be yet another area where Vermont and Quebec can put our heads together and find ways to take advantage of the rapidly shifting new normal where professionals can really work from anywhere. Since I took office 4 years ago, my team and I have been asking the question, what can we do to get more young families to call Vermont home? But this is more important than ever as we come out of this pandemic. And we believe having more opportunities will help attract people that want to live in the safest, healthiest state in the US. And I'm sure you're asking the same question for Quebec as well. We also have shared goals in the areas of renewable energy and climate change. I know, climate change is real, and we must do our part to mitigate it. Vermont continues to work towards the NEG ECP Regional Climate Change Action Plan goal, and it's consistent with our Global Warming Solutions Act, which requires a 40% reduction below 1990 greenhouse gas levels by 2030. Achieving this 2030 target is going to be a big challenge, and we'll need continued regional commitment, cooperation, and collaboration. To help, I proposed investments in climate action to our legislature. This includes expanding funding to weatherize more homes, building out our electric vehicle charging infrastructure, incentives to purchase all electric or modern wood furnaces so they can replace fossil fuel systems, investments in large-scale battery storage, mitigating flood hazards, and creating a $100 million reserve to help us implement Vermont's Climate Action Plan. We have so much in common and do so much great work together. So it's really unfortunate that due to the pandemic, so much of the focus has been on the border. I started out by mentioning our family ties. Just like many families, Vermont and Quebec have been cut off from visiting each other during this pandemic. I personally used to spend quite a bit of time in Canada through some of my former hobbies. I still have some of those bad habits, but stock car and snowmobile racing. And many of those trips are some of my fondest memories. Now, with racing snowmobiles, I raced in Valcourt, Thetford Mines, at the Montreal Olympic Stadium with greats such as Jacques Villeneuve. In stock cars, I raced at Senaire and Saint-Pie, Saint-Croix, Montmagny, Saint-Félicien, Saint-Eustache, Dumontin, with greats like the Le Pearls and even Jean-Paul Cabana. In normal times, Vermont welcomes 2 million Canadians every year to our state, and you contribute over 200 million to our economy. Obviously, this was before the pandemic, and I know our resorts, our restaurants, our downtowns along Vermont's northern border are really missing having you here. I think the good news is we're closing in on the end of this pandemic. Believe me, as someone who's made the economy a priority my entire political life, I never expected to be closing businesses or asking people not to travel like we did a little over a year ago. But I believe our approach has paid off. and we're in a good position to end our state of emergency. My strategy really was about putting a strong team together with the right experts, listening to their advice, and then acting on the data and the science. And we are very fortunate that Vermonters stepped up and made the sacrifices, helping push us to #1 in several categories. Now, and that's per capita, #1. Right now, of course, we're focused on vaccines, and we're top in the nation there as well. And most states in our region are also right there with us at the top, which is great news. As of today, we have over 77% of Vermonters who have gotten at least one dose. And importantly, about 90% of those over 65 who we know are the most vulnerable are fully vaccinated. I think we can all agree vaccines are working because we're seeing a significant drop in deaths, hospitalizations, and cases. Because of our success, we're now moving to full reopening. We're in step 3 of our Vermont Forward Plan, which means we have some event capacity limits, but no masks or distancing is required for those who are fully vaccinated. This also means folks can travel without a vaccination, quarantine, or testing requirement. Just last week, I announced that when we get to the point of having 80% of Vermonters over the age of 12 vaccinated with their first shot, I'll pull back on all the remaining restrictions in our state so we can fully reopen. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to lift all mandates well before my original target of July 4th. Vaccines, in fact, are yet another area where Vermont and Quebec have worked together. I joined the rest of the New England governors recently in sending a letter to the president about helping Canadians get fully vaccinated with their second dose so we can reopen the border quicker. Finally, I'll end on something that my team and I are really excited about. As part of my budget proposal for the coming fiscal year, I included a brand new Vermont boots on the ground presence in Montreal. This team will help us do more outreach for companies interested in expanding their markets into the United States. We, your neighbors in Vermont, want to help however we can. We believe this will open more doors, start more conversations, which will lead to great things. So please stay tuned for more news on that, because there's lots more to talk about when it comes to our regions working together. So again, many thanks for inviting me to spend a little bit of time with you today. And I'd be happy to answer or try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Governor Scott. It's really appreciated. And you did a great speech about the relation we have between our two countries. And hopefully it will be over, the COVID-19 crisis, it will be over shortly. And we hope we will reopen our borders and it will be possible for you to visit us here in Quebec, but for us to visit you in Vermont. I will start with the first question, Mr. Scott, okay? The electrification of transportation is a major sector of the future for Quebec, but also for Vermont. What is your vision of this sector? Will it become an important strategic axis in the coming years?
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm a car guy. So moving forward and accelerating vehicle electrification is and will continue to be a priority of my administration. I actually talked about this in one of my first budget or State of the State addresses when I became governor. We know that transportation accounts for the majority of emissions. Some people have targeted around 60, 65%. So we have to focus in this area. While more work needs to be done, we've already taken many steps toward a renewable transportation sector. I thought it was important that, even before the vehicles, we had to focus on EV charging infrastructure. So we've created that corridor, the EV charging corridor, which I'm proud to say means Vermont now has the most charging stations per capita in the country. Vermont's energy plan has a goal of increasing the renewable energy in the transportation sector to 10% in 2025 and 80% by 2050. So we have to get more EVs on the road. We provided incentives to make these vehicles more affordable and more attractive, and we're leading by example as well. Our state fleet of vehicles is now 50% hybrid or fully electric. Now, the really exciting news, and I'm sure you've seen it in your region as well, but when I see a couple of things. First, when Harley Davidson, and I'm a motorcycle guy as well. I have way too many motorcycles in my garage.
Me too.
But
sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you,
but when I see manufacturers like Ford and Harley Davidson as well coming out with electric vehicles, like Ford came out with the electric Mustang, which will do about 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. And now they have the F-150. And so with that, I think it's definitely doable. I think this is part of the answer, the supply and demand. And I think we'll see that it won't be a linear line to get to that, to reduce our emissions. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a slope like this, and we're going to go fast soon. So I'm very excited about this.
Thank you, Governor.
Governor, I have another question related to another subject. Some people might not know this, but Vermont has the third oldest population in the U.S. Quebec faced the same exact demographic challenge. However, the response are a bit different. According to you, Governor Scott, what could be done to reverse or at least attenuate this issue?
Yeah, this is a bit of our Achilles heel in some respects. We're a beautiful, safe state, have a lot to offer, but we and I've talked about this a lot. Our demographics, they're changing, right? We have an aging workforce, and it's one of the biggest challenges we face. But we made good progress in recent years. We've slowed the decline, and as a result of our response to the pandemic, the positive response to the pandemic, we're already seeing more people move to our state. We prioritize the issue with recruitment programs that have had some success as well, including calling on the federal government to make Vermont a destination for refugees and other forms of legal immigration. Because we not only need more people, we actually need more diversity as well. We've also taken some steps to ensure we're more welcoming, and our programs and systems are more equitable, which is important when working to welcome more people from all walks of life to our state. Again, we've made a significant progress, which showed up in this year's census, where we had population growth for the first time in a while, but we still have a lot of work left to do, which is why we continue to focus on jobs training, recruitment, revitalization of our downtowns, increasing housing, and just generally, we've got to make Vermont more affordable. We can't, we are competing with other states, so we have to make Vermont more affordable. These are all things that will help us keep more families here, but also attract more young workers to our state as well. It's about, finding ways to attract them. And a lot of it is due to our outdoor recreation as well. And that attracts people. We just need to provide a job to go with it.
I receive one comment, Mr. Governor, and of course, one question, but I'm sure the comment will make you happy. And it's come from the Aluminium Industry Association of Canada CEOs. Jean Simard, thank you for the support for the industry. and it's really appreciated. And the question about the aerospace sector, the aerospace industry is a pillar of the economic of Quebec, Canada, and the United States. Thousands of jobs, hundreds of companies, and billions in economic benefit depend on it. How could we increase the collaboration of our respective company, and make the flagship sector grow even more?
Yeah, I've always thought that, you know, we have to look at this regionally, right? I mean, when I went to Valcourt to race, of course, I was racing a Skidoo, a Bombardier, and when I see the Bombardier plant there and all that they've become, they're a powerhouse in aviation in the north. But we also have a lot to offer in Connecticut. So we just need to collaborate to not compete with one another, but we're competing with the West Coast now. So if we can get together as a region, I think this will be extremely powerful. So as I mentioned in my remarks in April, I released a reopening guide called the Vermont Forward Plan, laying out a phased return to business operations, unrestricted travel and gatherings. The phases were based on vaccination progress. And as I said, it set a target of July 4th, but we've exceeded expectations and moved into our step 3 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Now looks as though we'll be able to have 80% of Vermonters age 12 and older vaccinated. So I believe we'll be able to remove all the remaining restrictions by then. So as we transition to normalcy, it's critical we refocus on this relationship. How do we work together? And more specifically, again, with the province of Quebec. It's important we keep talking, we keep communicating, and again, keep working together and keep trade open on both sides of our border so we can all prosper. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say we're looking forward to safely reopening that border, and once again have all of you from Quebec to be able to come to Vermont and enjoy all we have to offer, and vice versa. We want to be able to see you as well. Again, you know, working together to grow the renewable energy, green technology, as well as the aerospace and defense sectors is going to be critical. We already have a strong network and a strong supply chain, and I think we can enhance that. But again, we don't need to compete with one another. We need to, you know, pull in the same direction towards a common vision and work together, and then we can all prosper. So I'm looking forward to continuing the good work we've already done, but we can go much further, and we can be the powerhouse.
Thank you, Governor. One question that's coming from Richard Darvaux. Is the Vermont Quebec Enterprise Initiative still up and running?
Yes, the answer is yes. This is probably a better question for our Agency of Commerce and Community Development, and we'll have to talk about that more. If it comes up as a question, then we have more work to do, right? So I think we've taken a bit of a hiatus here with the pandemic, but again, we need to reestablish all those relationships and get back to business.
Thank you, Governor.
I have a question, Governor, for our organization, CPQ, and of course, Chamber of Commerce in Quebec. What roles should organizations like the CPQ and the American Chamber of Commerce in Quebec play in the economic relationship between Quebec and Vermont?
Oh, it's critical. It's like our Chamber of Commerce here in Vermont, and trying to, you know, establish those lines of communication between the two. As I said before, we don't need to compete against each other. Like, we need to compete together towards the common goal. So I think your organization, as well as organizations within our state, as well as our Agency of Commerce and Community Development, again, communicating, sticking together, talking about issues to make sure that that we can help solve each other's problems. You know, it's interesting. When I first became governor, I have a cabinet of people that I rely on for counsel, as well as to make sure the wheels of government are moving. So we meet. Most governors meet with their cabinet members maybe every quarter or maybe every 6 months. We meet every single week, and on one of the first meetings we had, and there's 12 cabinet members there. We're sitting around a table, and I said, "We'll be successful as a team." And I believe in teams. I've utilized the team approach in my success in business, my success on the racetrack, and success in politics as well. You can't do it alone. You need to do it together. But I said, we'll be successful when we're sitting around the table, not just talking about our own problems, but solving one another's problems, breaking down the silos to figure out how we can do things better and how we can communicate better so that we're all pulling in the same direction towards that common goal I talk about. We've been successful in doing so, and with the pandemic, it's highlighted how important that really has been. I mean, we had people from all areas of government coming in to assist when we had problems in the labor department, or we had problems, you know, with the health department, and we being overwhelmed in certain areas. The whole team of employees came together to work to try and solve that. And we can do the same thing here with our organizations, working together and trying to solve one another's problems, because when we do that, we all prosper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. It's safe to say that climate change is definitely the challenge of our century. We talk more and more about renewable energy and green technology. How can Quebec and the state of Vermont work together on that matter?
Yeah, you know, again, we have, I'm very proud of what we're doing here in Vermont on a number of different levels. I talked about beta technologies. They are actually, they already have an order from, I think it's maybe both UPS and FedEx, but I know UPS for 100 aircrafts. So they're smaller in nature, and they'll be going from one small airport to another small airport, and they figured out a way to make this a more efficient operation. Now, this is a big deal for us here, but I think it's a big deal for us as a region as well, because the more we produce, the more supplies we're going to need, and the more essential it is for us to work together. So that the aeronautics sector is one, but large scale battery storage is another, and we have some really cutting edge companies right here in Vermont that will be able to. I mean, they're working on creating battery storage, so when we have renewable energy running, we'll be able to store the power somewhere when the wind's not blowing or the water's not flowing, so that we can store it up in those times and use it during peak times to help to smooth out the demand. So they're building structures and battery storage opportunities for small towns and villages and developments and so forth. But I think that's going to be cutting edge. That's what we're going to need in the future. And I think most of the at least the rest of the United States is going to need that as well. So again, we've been working on that for a while, and it's just expanding. So we're all going to need to work together again as a region to be able to accomplish some of those goals that we have, because we have, between the two of us, we have a lot of ingenuity and a lot of good ideas. We just need to again expand upon them.
Thank you, Governor.
I received a question from Mario Lavoie. Governor. And Governor, based on the importance of our supply chains, our close relationship, would you support including Canada within the Buy American and Buy America measures?
Yeah, I mean, I personally would, because we share a border, but it's hard to see the difference sometimes between going into Quebec and coming into Vermont, and you go through what you used to go through the local phone book, and you see a lot of the same names on both sides of the border. So we're one region, but I know there's some resistance in Washington to do that. But there are ways we can work around that, I believe, and that's if we need. That's why some of the companies have been so successful coming from Canada, like Revision Eyewear. Revision set up a small operation in Vermont, and they've expanded since then. And so by doing so, now I believe that they qualify for the Buy American plan. So I think there's some ways to work together in that regard, and may need just some investment in our state and working together in order to accomplish that. And I think there's a number of other examples of this throughout Vermont.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question coming from James McCartan. Does the governor expect the border restriction to be extended beyond June 21? And does he believe it's time for Canada and the US to draft a tangible plan to reopen the border?
I would say, I don't know. That's at a higher pay grade than I have. I think this is something that's being discussed on the federal level with the White House and Canada with the Prime Minister. But having said all that, I think it is time for us to develop a plan. And whether that means, and I know there's, again, some resistance to this, but we know vaccines work. The science proves it. We've proven it here in Vermont. We're down in the single digits in number of cases. We haven't had a single death in quite a few days. And so we're on the other side of this. So if we have to open the border, if we have to impose some sort of a vaccine passport, maybe that's the first step. And until we make sure that I know that you've come a long ways in a short period of time in getting at least the first dose to those in Quebec and Canada in general. But if we could either help you get the second dose or provide for full vaccination, being able to cross the border either way, I think that would be important because we know, again, you don't transmit the virus after you've had the vaccine. It's pretty effective. And you protect yourself from it as well once you have a large number of people. Like I said, we're going to be at 80%, which is far above anyone else. And I'm not disparaging other states, but you take like Mississippi. Mississippi has about a 35% vaccination rate at this point for their population. We are getting close to 80%. So we are a safe state. And so if we could do something to open our border to provide trade back and forth between us and you, that's far different than like between you and Mississippi, for instance. I mean, it's just like night and day. So there's got to be a way to do this. And I think maybe some sort of a passport, at least during the transition, might be helpful.
Unlike many states in the US, Vermont is coming out of the pandemic in much better shape financially than it thought it would be. What are your investment priorities without the surplus?
Yeah, if you'd asked me a year ago, in fact, I was asked a year ago, what's going to happen next year in terms of your budget? And the answer was, I was very concerned, and we were really tightening our belts, so to speak. We were going to get through it. We had a lot of money in reserves that we've been putting aside for these types of emergencies, and we were prepared to use them and reducing wherever we could. But due to the federal bailout, really, the money that we received in some of those the coronavirus relief fund, the CRF funds, was instrumental in putting us in a pretty good position. And so by the time we got through the majority, we had a surplus last year, which I never thought we'd do. Even though we were in the last quarter of our fiscal year, we had a surplus then. And then I thought, well, if we can get by without going into too much debt and having to use too many of our reserves, we'll be in good shape. Well, as it turned out, we ended up with a surplus this year. Now, this is over a period of about 10 years before I came into office, we had a deficit every single year. So since I become governor, and we've taken some of these steps and focused on the economy and caught some lucky breaks too, we've actually had a surplus every single year. So we're also received another federal package, and we have about $1 billion at our disposal that's somewhat flexible. So I propose to the legislature to invest in 4 to 5 areas. Broadband is something that's really important, and something that is lacking in some of the rural parts of our state. So I said, let's take and put $250 million, a quarter of that $1 billion, into broadband. Housing, we spent a lot on housing for the homeless, and as well as if we want to attract more people to the state, we've got to have decent, affordable housing for the work class or workforce. So I said, let's put another $250 million there. Climate change mitigation. Again, we've talked about how it's real. So let's put some money aside for that, so we can make some really big transformative changes. So we put another $250 million there. We also have, clean water is important to us here in the state. We're a very green state. We're very proud. We count on tourism. So let's put another $200 million in that as well. We wanted to put money into the economy to provide for recovery for businesses and for the people of Vermont. So another couple $100 million in that category as well. So those are the things that we've identified, we've agreed, the legislature agreed with me, and we're going to put it aside, and over the next 3 years be able to disperse that money, which should put us in pretty good shape in the future, as well as the way our regular economy is working right now. We should be in good shape.
Thank you, Governor. As an ex-entrepreneur, we could say you have been in those shoes. Business lived difficult times since March 2020, and they can't wait to see sanitary measure removed. What is the key to a successful economic recovery? How can Vermont and its partner help each other businesses?
I didn't get all of that, but in terms of economic recovery, is that the question?
That's it. I can repeat it. That as an ex-entrepreneur, we could say you have been in our shoes. Business lived difficult times since March 2020, and they can't wait to see sanitary measure removed. What is the key to a successful economic recovery?
Yeah, I think it's being, again, a partner. I came from business. I had my own business for 35 years in the construction business. So I've lived through some of the ups and downs of the economy. Part of the reason I got involved in politics to begin with I don't consider myself to be a politician. I'm more of an entrepreneur. And so I got involved because I got tired of what the lack of interest in all the challenges and obstacles they put in my way to keep me from prospering. So I decided to run for office then. I think we need more business people in politics. We need them to step up, have their voices heard, and we need the political leaders need to understand there's got to be a partnership. We take for granted sometimes businesses because they're the lifeblood of state government. Without the businesses, there would be no jobs. The economy would tank. It's again, state government or any government relies on revenue from businesses and the wages that it produces to live. So we got to be better partners, and I've tried to do that. I'm sometimes a lone voice here in Vermont, but we're making some gains, and I think people are starting to realize that it really is a partnership. It's not either or. It's together that we when we work together and protect our natural resources and do what we can to protect people, we are just so much stronger as a result. So it's about attitude, and again, working together and not politicizing and polarizing every single issue that comes along.
We will continue in that way, Governor, in the collaboration way. I received a question for a participant, and the question is, Governor, the enterprise Beta you refer to is definitely a pioneer in the electric aviation. What will be the next step to bring a Quebec-Vermont hub in this field?
The person who started Beta, he grew up here in Vermont. He has a great attitude, wonderful ideas, very cares deeply about Vermont. When he started this project a number of years ago, it really was a grassroots effort. And when it started to develop and they started to test what they had, it became clear that this was going to be, I think, a success story. So he continued to work at it, but he's had a lot of offers to go to other states. And here's the fortunate part, because to be honest, I think he could go to some other states and maybe get a better tax deal or more incentives and so forth. But this is where he wants to be. And I believe that his roots are here, his heart is here, and he's going to grow this company here, but he's going to need some help. And so we need to, work together, both. And I'm talking about as a region. Again, Vermont can't do this on its own. I think we need our partners all the way from Connecticut to Quebec in order to provide everything that we need and to grow it. Because again, like we talk about, we were talking earlier about the Buy America and the move to do that. And having to have roots here in order to provide for that. Now, maybe there's some things we can do. They would be interested in doing on the other side of the border as well. So I'm more than willing to try and get the parties together because, again, as a region, I think we are so much stronger when we're working together. And I know. Kyle Clark would be, I'm sure, more than willing to talk about this.
Thank you, Governor. One question we have from Tom Cray, who's the founder of AmCham Quebec. To identify reciprocal supply chain opportunity, is there an organization or an office in your government that could focus on identifying supply chain opportunity for Vermont companies looking for supply from Quebec and from Quebec companies that could supply from companies in Vermont?
Yeah, yeah. That would. Tim Tierney is here with us today. We work on this a lot, and we want to continue to expand upon this. So, our Agency of Commerce and Community Development can put together this, and again find avenues, ways, opportunities for us to find those and grow those supply chains that are desperately needed to keep this, within the region, because we have enough expertise. We just don't know what everyone their expertise is, and sometimes they don't know what the needs are of individual businesses. So that goes right along with more communication, more working together, and using the Chamber of Commerce's and your organization again to work together to provide for those opportunities, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs amongst our two, Vermont and Quebec, but also throughout New England as well. We just need to find those opportunities.
Maybe a last question, Mr. Scott, and it will be an easier for you. And what is the Vermont state corporate tax rate on manufacturers, and how does it compare with neighboring border states?
Well, they're all over the place in that respect, and it's not just the tax rates we have to look at. I mean, it's the whole package, and that's what we've tried to do. We have many incentives for coming to Vermont and training opportunities and so forth. So that, along with the quality of life and some of the other tax proposals, is something that is equally as important. A number of years ago, for aviation, for instance, we eliminated the sales tax on aircraft parts. So this, we did this when I was back in the legislature, in the Senate. We did it then, and I was a big proponent of that because I knew people could fly anywhere, and why not fly to Vermont and then get their airplanes fixed right here in Vermont and not be charged a tax where maybe they do in another state. So this could provide to be beneficial as well. And again, the proximity with Quebec and Vermont, I think, provides a great opportunity for cross-border relationships and just utilizing our strengths between the region and between Quebec and New England, but Vermont in particular. So I think looking at the grand scheme of things, depending on what sector, and we're providing, I've been advocating for more incentives for any green energy proposal, whether it's large scale battery storage or anything like that. So stay tuned, and if you have ideas, we can identify where that might fit into to your vision.
Thank you, Governor Scott. It's been a pleasure to discuss economic issues with you, and I hope you will come back in person, and possibly we will going to ride together in Harley-Davidson in Quebec when the pandemic is going to be over. Michel?
Thank you, Governor Scott, for the great conferences. I would now like to turn the floor over to the Delegate General of Quebec and Boston for New England, Marie-Claude Francaire. She has held various positions within the Ministère des Relations Internationales et de la Francophonie since 2009. Over the years, her knowledge of New England issue has been refined. She continued to nurture Quebec collaboration with the 6 states and the region. Thanks to you, Marie-Claude.
Merci beaucoup, Michel. Governor Scott, Quebec is so fortunate to have you as a neighbor, but more importantly, as a friend. And if this crisis has shown us anything over the last year, it is certainly the power of leadership. And I want to commend your COVID-19 response and your management of the pandemic. To strengthen the depth of the relationship between Quebec and Vermont was also underlined in the past year. This crisis brought us closer than ever, And it's only by working together, as you so mentioned, that we have met the challenges that we face. And I'd like to reassure you and tell you that sometimes I speak to Tim Tierney more often during one day than I do to my own mother. So that goes to show that that relationship is really strong and ongoing. And we share more than a border with you. You've mentioned it. We also have a shared history, a cultural heritage, and we share the same air, the same soil, and the same water. We are in this together. And let me assure you, strengthening our relations with the United States is at the core of Quebec's priorities. We firmly believe in free trade and in the complementarity of the Canadian and American economies. In these uncertain times, North America's economic recovery will depend on trade policies that support innovation and enhance our competitiveness and protect our integrated value chains. Earlier this month, our Minister of International Relations, Madame Nadine Giraud, launched the Quebec's new strategy for the United States, announcing additional resources allocated to our 9 government offices in the U.S. so we can strengthen our relationship and explore new avenues for collaboration. And I want to tell you that our office in Boston is at the forefront of that, and aerospace is something that we will be adding more resources to. By working together, I am confident our regions will provide the tools required to promote our common prosperity while benefiting both our regions as well as our respective workers and their families. Together, we will jumpstart our regional economy to compete with other regions of the world in a rapidly changing global economic environment. Carl, Michel, quel message encourageant pour une reprise forte en partenariat avec le Vermont. Dans les périodes difficiles, l'union fait toujours la force. La crise sanitaire doit être l'occasion de resserrer nos liens et d'élargir nos domaines de coopération pour assurer une relance vigoureuse dans toute la région. Un peu plus tôt ce mois-ci, la ministre Giraud représentait le premier ministre à la conférence des gouverneurs de la Nouvelle-Angleterre et des premiers ministres du Canada. Le gouverneur y a fait référence un peu plus tôt. Suite à la rencontre, les participants ont publié un communiqué qui présente les priorités régionales et nous donne une idée de comment se positionner. On y parle de commerce transfrontalier sans entrave, mais aussi on met l'accent sur une reprise économique verte, sur une collaboration dans la lutte contre les changements climatiques et dans les secteurs de l'électrification, de l'énergie et des technologies propres. Le Québec est très bien positionné pour répondre à l'appel. Le contexte n'a jamais été aussi favorable à la mise en œuvre de plans d'envergure dans ce domaine. Nos gouvernements provinciaux et fédéraux des 2 côtés de la frontière sont sur la même page et voient la lutte contre les changements climatiques comme non seulement une nécessité, mais une occasion de développement de richesses régionales. Je suis convaincue que cet engagement renouvelé donnera un élan supplémentaire aux relations du Québec avec son principal partenaire commercial. Il y a toujours place à amélioration et pour ce faire, travaillons en équipe afin de relever ce défi de taille qui est également un vecteur d'opportunité. Governor, thank you again so much for these insights. Quebec is ready and more than willing to partner with Vermont to reach our ambitious goals, and let's work together and keep working together.